Now we have 8 objectives for today's class. The first one is to define what Power BI is, to look at the different, we have desktop, service, and the mobile. We look at the Power BI interface, the overview. We have the data, the report, and the model views. Then we talk about the navigating panes, fields, visualization filters. We talk about data sources, overview, the different sources that we can use in Microsoft Power BI. Then how can we import data into Power BI desktop? And then we talk about the import versus direct query mode. And then we talk about basic data preview and exploration. And then we fix column names and data types. Don't worry if this does not make sense as at now. The goal is at the end of today's class, you should be able to, understand this properly. Right. What is Power BI? Microsoft Power BI is one of the suite of Microsoft that they have designed, to make data analysis very interesting. It helps us to do a whole lot of analysis. Excel is powerful, but you can use Microsoft Power BI to do more functions than Excel. And it's a business analytics tools by Microsoft that enables users to visualize data and share insights across an organization. And then it has 3 main components. The first one is the Power BI desktop. And when we say desktop, that is the application that you have downloaded on your system. That means you have downloaded it, you have installed it, and then you are opening it on your desktop, on your system, laptop or desktop. Like what you can see on my system now is a Power BI desktop. That's a desktop version. We also have the Power BI service, and that is Power BI in the cloud. That means after designing a report, you have designed the report, you can publish it to the Power BI service. That means you can use that to share with people. If I'm sharing a desktop file with you, then you can modify it. You can change a whole lot of things from it. But if I share it with you via the Power BI service, then there is limitations as to what you can do. Imagine I have the database, or I'm connected to the database of the organization, and I've generated a report, from the database, and I share the desktop version with you. You can manipulate that, and then you can change whatsoever it is that I have there. But if it is a Power BI service, that means what I want you to see is what you will see. The access I want you to have is what you would have. So that means it makes everybody's work easier. I mean, the analyst does not have to be checking and saying, okay, who has changed this thing again? Everything is just fine the way I have left it. And then we have the Power BI mobile. Now, this Power BI mobile enables you to be able to view reports, to be able to view dashboards on your mobile. And if you look at the lower part of my screen, you can see the mobile layout view. So you can design the dashboard as well so that users can be able to view it on their mobile. So we've talked about the Power BI desktop, which is what you are seeing on my screen. We'll talk about Power BI service that is on the cloud, moving the dashboard to the cloud. And then we'll talk about Power BI mobile, enabling users to be able to use their mobile devices to view the reports. Now, when you launch Power BI interface, you have launched Power BI desktop, this is what you see. Now, from what you are saying, it looks like Microsoft Excel. That means some of the icons are very familiar, but some of them are not familiar. So, what can we see? If you look to the right-hand side of the screen, you can see data, and it's saying you haven't loaded any data yet. That means once I load a data, once I load a file, you will see it here. You also have the visualizations. That's the different visuals that you can use. And you can also download more. If you want more visuals, you can get more visuals. If you can see the icon on the 3 dots, you can see that you can click on it and then you can get more visuals. A whole lot of visuals are available. You can import from a file, or you can just go straight to the internet and then it tells you, what It tells you the kind of visuals that you have. I can't go there because I'm not signing. And then you have the filters. What's a filter? A filter is just you have, if you look at if a physical filter, the top, most top is very wide and then it narrows down. So that's the same thing a filter does. You have the entire data set. We now want to segment it and say, okay, what I want to see is just data from 2020 to 2024. That means you are filtering out a particular part of it, and then you're having a subset of the entire data. So that's what the filter part gives you. And then you can see the different filters on the data at this point. If we move to the left-hand side of the screen, we have three different views: the report view, the table view, and then the model view. The report view is where you can create different visuals. That means you can have pie charts, bar charts, column charts, whatsoever it is that you want. You create it using the report view. The next to it is a table view. And the table view, just like Microsoft Excel, just like a worksheet, that's what you have in the table view. You are viewing your data as a table. And then the model view allows you to create relationships. We'll talk more about that later in the course. You can create relationships between your tables. That means, for example, if I have 6 tables in my, Power BI file, I can create relationships so that they can communicate amongst each other. For example, I have sales data, I have HR data, I have customers data. How can these three tables relate together? So you use the model view to create that relationship. So we move on to the different data sources that we have in Microsoft Power BI. In Power BI is so versatile that you can have different data sources. That means depending on what your organization is using, you can connect to it. You can connect to API, you can connect to website, you can connect to Microsoft Excel, CSV, text file, just name it, a whole lot. And the good thing about Power BI is that they keep updating it on a monthly basis. That means if they have noticed anything that is not working properly this month, they'll go back, review it, work on it, and then bring out an update in the new month. So that means what you have, you may have a different interface to what I have on my system, is because the version we are using may be different. So you may want to update it to the latest version so that we are on the same page. Now, talking about different data sources, what's the data source? You want to create a dashboard, but you need to connect to a source of data, before you can create visuals based on that data. For example, I have my customer sales file in Microsoft Excel. So I want to connect to that so that with that data source, I can now create different visuals. I can say, okay, this is maybe sales for the last 5 months, sales for the last 6 months, sales for the last 3 years. You have to connect to a data source. Like now, I cannot do anything on this because there's no data source. Now, if you want to connect to a data source, what do? If you can see my icon, the cursor on my screen, I click on this get data. That's under the home tab, and then you see get data. If you click the down arrow, you can see the common data sources. The first one there is Microsoft Excel. So Excel workbook. Then you have Power BI semantic models, data flows, SQL, text and CSV, web, a whole lot of them. And if your organization, what they use is not part of this, if you click on more, you can see so many more data sources. JSON, folder, just name it. Just name it. And this file keeps updating on a regular basis. They keep updating it. So once you just click on it, then you can connect to it. So what we're going to do is to connect to the file that I sent to you before now. So if I click on get data, it is a Microsoft Excel workbook. So if I click on get data and I click on Excel workbook, and then I go to my desktop and I look for the file. financial sample data, and then I click on open. So it's connecting to it. Just it takes a few seconds or depending on the speed of your system. So if you can see my screen, it is displaying what is in that data. Now it's telling me now that I have two sheets in that workbook. I have one that is named financials, and I have another one that is named sheet one. So if you click on financials, it gives you a preview. This is what is inside the workbook called the worksheet called financials. So you can just have a quick glance and say, okay, that is fine. What of the sheet one? What's inside? Okay, this is what is in sheet one. Okay. So the decision is now yours. What do you want Power BI to connect to? Do you want the two, or you just want to connect to the financials? If you click on financials, you can connect just to that. But if you want, you can connect to the two. So once you made that decision, for example, let me connect just to financials. I've selected financials. Then you have three options here. The first one is to load. The next one is to transform data. And then the last one is cancel. I'm sure you don't want to cancel, except you are not sure. And you say, okay, no, I don't want this data. Let me choose another one. Then you click cancel. Now, what's the difference between load and transform data? If you load the data as it is, that means you're not doing any transformation. You're not doing any modification. You just want to load it the way it is. Let me just see the data the way it is. No need to change anything there. You just load it up. Whereas if you click transform data, that means you are able to modify the data before loading it. That means, for example, a column there is not in currency format. You want to change it to currency format before you load the data. Then you can click the transform data. But if you are sure everything is fine, or you think, okay, I'll just do that later, then you can just click load. So I will do the two. The first one is to click on load. I click on load, and then it takes some few seconds. It's loading it, creating connection in model, and then loading data to model. Yes, 700 rows loaded. That is my data. What if I don't want to actually load? I want to transform it. So I want to delete this from model. Yes, let's start again. So I click get data from Excel workbook. Then I click this open. And then I click financials. And then I click transform data. I can see this screen. And this screen allows me to transform my data, to modify my data before loading it. Now, if you scroll, you can see the different columns I have. You can scroll up and down. And if you look towards the lower part to the left, it's telling you 700 rows load, 700 rows, 16 columns. And then column profiling based on top 1,000 rows. So it's just a preview, and it's showing me the first 1,000 rows. But of course, my data is not up to 1,000, so it's just showing me all of my data. Now, if you look at towards my right-hand side of the screen, you can see this applied steps. That means for every step I make during this transformation, it brings out, a step for me for it. For example, if I right click and I click on the profit and I click remove, and I discovered, oh no, I don't want to remove it. I can come to the apply steps. You can see remove columns. That is what I just did. So if I want, I can cancel it, and then it returns me back to where I was. The column is back. If I right click on sales and I say duplicate column, it moves that duplicate of the column to the last part of the sheet. If you're looking at it as a sheet, so you can see it sales dash copy, a copy of the sales column, and I can double click on it and change it to profits of the new year, or just anything, and then press enter. And then if I did this, I now discover, no, I don't want to rename it as that. I can just come back here and click cancel. You can see that the duplicate colon is still there. If I don't want the duplicate colon and I just click cancel, it removes the duplicate colon. Someone might want to hack if I right click and I duplicate the colon and then I double click, I put the name, let's say the name is, let me just put timeline or time profits, whatever, and I press enter on my keyboard. And then I now come to the duplicate colon. Remember that the last apply step is renamed colon. If I come to the duplicate colon and I remove it, what happens? I have distorted the sequence. So Power BI will warn me if I click cancel. It will tell me, delete step. Are you sure you want to delete this step? Deleting this step may affect subsequent steps, which could cause your query to break. If I am confident that yes, it's not just to duplicate the colon, when I click delete, you can see there's an error. Why? Because this renamed colon, there's no colon to rename because the colon I'm supposed to rename has been deleted. So I can click cancel and then I'm back to where I was. Let me do that again. If I right click and I duplicate unit sold and I rename it to be, let me just say profits before tax, and I press enter on my keyboard. Now I have duplicated column step and I have renamed columns step. Now, if I come to duplicate column and I delete it, remember that renamed column step is dependent on duplicated column. So if I remove the duplicated column, Microsoft Power BI is warning me, are you sure this step will not affect the remaining query? And I say delete. Rename column cannot be executed because the duplicated column, which is a basis for renaming it, has been removed. So if I want to just remove it again, I just click cancel, and then I'm back to where I was. Right. In this section, we're talking about import versus direct query modes. Now, this is how Power BI accesses your data. Two methods, either to import it directly into Power BI or to create a direct query to it. That means it's creating a connection to the data source and then doing the transformation or the visualization through that query. The other option is to import it directly into Power BI. Now, what are the differences? For the import, it is stored directly in Power BI. But for the direct query, it remains in the source. So it just creates a connection, and then the transformation and the visualizations can be done through that connection. For the import mode, it is faster, but for the direct query, it depends on the source. So if the source is maybe a database or an API, depending on it, it may make it faster or slower. And then for the import mode, it requires refresh. That means for you to get the latest version of that data, you need to refresh it, either automatically or manually. But for the direct query, it is always up to date. Always up to date. For the import mode, it is the transformations and DAX and everything is supported fully in Power BI. But for direct query, it may be limited. There are some limitations. For example, if you are working with the API directly, you may not be able to do some transformations directly, through that connection. So it may limit what you can do with the data source. So that's for import versus direct query. But the thing is that Power BI can decide. It can tell you, okay, this data, I think it is better I import it directly. And then you have to be refreshing it, or you create automatic refresh. But if it's like API, database that you cannot directly import, then you have to, of course, trader connection, and then you can use it to, perform your transformations and the likes. We'll continue with our transformation. For example, I want my unit sold to be in 2 decimal places. Or okay, let me change type. It's in, let's do fixed decimal, replace current, and then we have 2 decimal places. What did I do? I came to the left part of the colon, click on it, and then you can change it to fixed decimal number. It was initially in decimal number, so I changed it to fixed decimal number. Then I can come to country and say, double click on it, or right click and rename. I can change it to country of origin and press enter. If you look at the apply steps, it has renamed colon. Then I can come to gross sale and still change it to fixed decimal. I can right click, scroll to the right and change profit as well to fixed decimal. And then I think that's fine. Once I'm done with my transformation, you come to under your file, under your home option, you click close. You have close and apply, or you can apply or you can close. So since I want to load the data, so I'll just close and apply. Close and apply. And then it is loading my data. And here we are. So how can I view the data? How can I just preview it even after loading? That's when you come to your left-hand side, table view, and then you can see the entire data. You can scroll. You can see all the columns. You can see all the rows. You just keep scrolling, and then you can see everything. Okay, so this is my data. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, I think my profits, I need to make it. Okay, I think it's fine. What else can I transform? Maybe units sold. Let me change it to decimal. So I come to report view, transform data. Remember that transform button. So you can go back to it even after that means if you click load without transforming and you want to now transform it after loading, you can come back and click transform data. It brings back that same page. And now I want to change my sale price to fixed decimal. And I want to change my sales to fixed decimal. Then close and apply. Because I've made changes, then I close and apply. If I don't want to apply the changes, I can just click on the drop arrow and click close. It will discard whatever changes I've made. Okay, so I close and apply. Now it has applied those changes. If you come to colon, you can see it there. You can see the changes that we've made. Right. So the next thing we must do as we try to round up today is to create a simple chart based on the data that we have loaded. I know the visualization is the interesting part. You want to say, okay, what can I do? How can I see that data that I have loaded visually? So for example, you want to create, these are the different visuals that you can build. You have the pie chart, the donut chart, the funnel, you have the tree map, you have the stacked bar chart, stack column chart, clustered bar chart, just anything. So let's say I want to just use a stacked column chart. I click on it. You can make it as big as you want. Just resize it to the size you want. For example, I want to make it half of it. And then these are my columns. These are the fields that I have in that data. So what do I want to do? You may want to say, okay, what is the sale? I have sales and I have, say, profits or sales by the year, or just anything the way you just want it. For example, I want country of origin by the sales. It's showing me in the United States, I have 25 million. In Canada, 24 million. In France, I have 24 million. Germany, 23 million. Mexico, I have 20 million. So that's just a simple chart that we can create with our data. And of course, you have different fields, different columns. So you can just change it the way you want. You can decide to maybe country by sale price, country by profit, country by product, just the way you want. You can create another visual. For example, I want a pie chart and I want the profits by products. So it's telling me the sum of profits by products. And these are the different segments that I have there. So this is just a very simple chart that we can create in Microsoft Power BI. As we progress in the course, we'll be bringing more interesting visuals, we'll be modifying them, we'll be, changing the labels, changing the colors, and the likes.